being an entrepreneur sounds cool, but the reality of building a business is very, very difficult. Every level that you hit, there's a lot of things that suck that you just won't want to do. What you're capable of is on the other side. I don't feel like it.
And if you're committed to what it is that you're trying to do, nothing is going to stop you from getting there.
Welcome back to another episode of Real Business Owners with myself, Trevor Cowley. Today is a solo episode. If you're ready to level up, make a change, get better, go to joinrbo.com. Guys, today I want to talk about problems. Everybody's going to deal with them, and it's a certain type of person that has the ability to bear them in a manner in which is productive for, long-term great result, because there's always a long-term result. The options are don't do anything to make our long-term result greater, or do things now like problem solve in order to make our long-term outcome much better. So, time's going to pass regardless. We might as well make the future better than the current, and definitely better than the past. And so problems really don't stand a chance against problem solvers. I was coming back from a mastermind trip in Florida, and it was problem after problem after problem. And as I was sitting there, okay, well, that's a curveball. How do I deal with this? Okay, how do I deal with that? And once I would address one thing, there would be another thing. And so I think that it's very common in business. Once you address one thing, there's another thing, and then another thing. So in reality, those that win and those that win big are really just problem solvers. And then there's the type of individual that gets to a certain level in business and the problems get bigger than them. And that's really where they start settling in and living the same way forever. How did you go from 0 employees to 5, but 10 is too much, right? What that means is, okay, you found your capacity to deal with struggle. You found the area in which you're okay making the exchange and dealing with that problem at that level. But once the problems get greater, the stress gets greater, the struggle gets greater, there's a threshold of tolerance that people can handle. And that's where they start, they touch it, maybe they pull back just a hair and they settle in. So if you want a great result, that means that you're not able to settle in. So, which by default means you better be pretty damn good at solving problems and not getting frustrated when you are dealing with them. And I guess that would be foolish of me to say not get frustrated. I still get frustrated. So I guess the frustration itself is okay, but do you let the frustration of the problem stop you from making progress on addressing that problem, creating a solution? So I guess there's two different outcomes that we have when we deal with frustration or stress or issues. And the two different types of individuals are those that can operate despite frustration, despite stress or struggle. And then those that say it's just too much and don't believe that the exchange is worth it any longer if that's the way that it has to be. And so those that have a problem waking up early, do you think that nobody ever has had to overcome that problem or that issue before you? And so it's like you have certain habits, certain things that are detrimental to your success. There's certain problems that your routine or maybe the way you think end up creating. Half the problems are our perspective, and then the other half, there's real meat and potatoes behind in business. But I've seen it happen over and over and over where I'm watching somebody tell me about their problem and they know exactly what to do. They're stutter stepping. The analysis by paralysis issue starts really kicking in. Then I went a step further. I'm like, well, everybody is being held back by a problem that they don't want to address or they don't want to deal with. You might have health problems, but you don't want to deal with the problem that getting healthy creates, because it creates problems like waking up early, like moving your body when you don't feel like it. So that exchange is you overcoming those things that you've had issues with in the past. Okay, this time I'm for real. This time I'm truly committed. Like the first time I wanted to get clean off of drugs, I didn't get clean the first time I tried to get clean off of drugs. I didn't get clean the second time. I didn't get clean the third time. Like sometimes it takes going back after that problem over and over, because sometimes we try to overcome it. We try to tackle it. We try to become a better leader. We tried to hire somebody so that we could scale. I tried to spend a little bit of money in marketing, but it didn't work. You mean you weren't committed to figuring out how to make that work? You weren't committed to becoming a good leader. You weren't committed to growing and actually finding the person that fills that role. Because I tried to do that and it didn't work. You hired one person. If we've been in business for a couple years and we have employees, you have to know just as well as I do that it's very rare that the first person that you hire for a position ends up being the long-term individual in that position. So if you tried to fill it and it didn't work, what do? You try again. What would I do if I tried to quit using drugs and it was unsuccessful? The smart thing for me would be to try again and try again. If I've tried to become healthy, but it hasn't worked, I've got in some grooves, but then I keep falling off, then try again. The whole point of the podcast today is there's going to be problems. And maybe you've tried to overcome some of those problems, or you felt as though, or you've given yourself credit that you've tried to overcome that problem. When in reality, maybe you threw a Band-Aid at a gushing wound, but you really weren't committed to solving the problem. You wanted to go through the motions of acting in a manner which is positive, but you weren't committed to that outcome. You weren't truly committed. It would be nice. The result itself is nice. So that's the carrot that gets you started. But then there's the middle, the problems. I'm tired. I'm sore. I don't want to do it this morning. I'm sick. My legs hurt. I might have an injury. These are problems. They could be focused on, or the commitment could be honored. But you can't dwell on those problems and be committed to a new outcome, because the commitment itself draws you to become somebody that creates solutions for it. That's what committed is. Despite what's in front of me, I will continue to move forward, and if that doesn't work, I will reapproach it and make some adjustments along the way, and I'll try again. Committed is not that you're going to be successful the first time that you do it. It's that you try again after you tried to address that problem didn't work. That's what commitment is. Commitment would be easy if there were no problems. Try again. That's what I'm telling you to do right now. Try again. If you tried being a morning person and it didn't work, it becomes a habit after a while by simply staying in the discomfort long enough for it to become a habit. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it's easier for me to run a half mile than it is for somebody that's never done it before. It's just become a habit. It's normal. Operating under pain, low sleep, exhaustion, with my mind turning on me. I'm committed to an outcome. So these problems mean less than the end result that I said that I wanted. If you have a problem with managing money and you've tried a budget and it just didn't work, you just weren't committed to it. So recommit. Try again. Stop getting to the threshold of what you believe you can tolerate and stay in that discomfort long enough so your default settings get greater. You become greater. You can manage more problems, more stress, but it's at a different level in the exchange that you're now making in order to do it. You're receiving some. In other words, you're making more money now because of it. If you've had a problem with being consistent with things, try again, recommit. A good life, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, goes to those that are good problem solvers, or recommit over and over and over. I'm not going to ever be the fastest person. I won't ever be able to run the furthest, but I will be consistent, which is one of the hardest things for human beings to be. If I can control that one thing, I can put my name amongst one of one or the top 1% in the world just because of consistency. Will I consistently exchange 2 to 3 hours of my day for X amount of days to become this result, one of one? All I have to really do to separate myself from everybody in society and be one of one is do something for 2 to 3 hours a day for 600 days. So the hard part is the consistency of it. The consistency of reinvesting back into your business is difficult. The consistency in which you have to show up for yourself, I would say mentally and physically, by going to the gym, is difficult. It's the consistency of it that's the issue. That's the biggest problem that most people deal with, is inconsistent issues in between their spurts of showing up at a high level. So they can do that and run at that pace, let's say, for a certain period of time, and then they fall off. So if you want to run at that pace for longer, what would you have to do? Just push yourself a little bit further than what you're normally doing. And then a little bit further and a little bit. Continue to solve problems, continue to push yourself. And if you've had issues with things that you feel like that you've tried, ask yourself, how committed was I really to that outcome? Seeing it through, no matter what the exchange is, saying, I'm willing to go through it, whatever it throws at me. I already know it's going to be tough. So when tough finds me, I'm going to say, okay, this is what I knew was going to happen. This was part of the exchange. Those who solve the most problems in a short amount of time, or shorten the amount of time that it takes to solve those problems, wins the biggest. And the biggest problem is consistency in whatever area of your life that shows weakness or struggle or less than type results. So adjust your problems by having the problem of overcoming the difficult things that it takes in order to be consistent, not the problems of remaining the same. I hope this episode found those that it needed. Per usual, please rate and review the episode. Join RBO.com for the real ones. Other than that, keep kicking ass, and we'll see you next week.